The 2023 Boston Red Sox love to never give up. They also kind of love to shoot themselves in the foot a little bit. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin. The Los Angeles Dodgers came to town this weekend, and it was about what most people, I think, expected to happen when the Los Angeles Dodgers came to town for the first time in a very long time, right? The big part of it was Mookie Betts making his triumphant return to the Boston Red Sox, well, to Fenway Park at least, right? And everything anyone could talk about over this weekend was the return of Mookie Betts on the field, within the media. Everywhere was talking about Mookie Betts, but honestly, the games that were played this weekend were really competitive games. They were fun to watch for the most part. Unfortunately, this series did not go the Red Sox way. They dropped 2 out of 3 games to the Los Angeles Dodgers, putting their season total at 69 and 63. They also are now 2 games back of third place in this division, and more importantly, the number everyone cares about, they are now 4.5 games back of that final wild card spot, currently chasing the Houston Astros. And I think the biggest takeaway of this series was that the Red Sox had a real chance to make a statement here, and they just ended up costing themselves the opportunity to make that statement. So what we're going to do in today's video is we're going to break down the latest Red Sox series. We're going to talk about how it went against the Dodgers. We're going to talk about the good because there was plenty of good. We're going to talk about the bad because, of course, there was plenty of bad as well. And we're going to talk about how this series affects the 2023 Red Sox regular season and their chances of a postseason. But before we get into that, do me a favor. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys hit the like button on this video as well. Helps these videos out a ton, and it would mean a lot to me. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Let's get into it. Okay, so like normal, let's start with the offense in this series. And even though the Red Sox didn't win this series, I still think the series MVP in terms of offense had to go to Adam Duvall, who continues to be white hot at the plate. He in this series went 5 for 13 with 2 home runs. That is now 5 home runs in 7 games. He ended with 4 total RBIs and has just been absolutely tearing the cover off the baseball lately. He now has a 133 OPS plus on the season, and he's really been able to get back on track from where we saw Adam Duvall leave off before his wrist injury, right? Obviously not to that extent. Adam Duvall was probably the hottest hitter on planet Earth before his injury, but he's slowly starting to get back to being a really productive member of the heart of this order, and that is really, really nice to see, especially as we get down to the stretch here. The other guy who again is closely behind Adam Duvall in terms of the series MVP has to be Justin Turner, who once again put together a really, really impressively productive series, and this time it was against his former team, the team that he really made a name for himself with, his hometown team. He ended up also having 2 home runs in this series, as well as 3 total RBIs. I don't know if there's much more we can say about how good Justin Turner has been on this channel. We talk about what he does and brings to this team basically every single series recap video at this point, but to be honest with you, I'm just flat out wildly impressed with what he's been able to do this season and who he's been able to be for the Boston Red Sox, and he just flat out continues to do that. It's really, really impressive. Outside of those two, Tristan Casas had a really nice series as well. He ended up going 4 for 8, hitting 500 in this series with a home run and a double. He's having a bit of a down month in terms of his production. He's not as productive in August as he was in June or July, where he was quite literally at one point the hottest hitter on planet Earth, but he's still being really, really productive, and it's continuing to build into a really great rookie season and cementing himself as a hopeful piece and pillar of the next great Red Sox team. But Tristan Casas had a great series in this one as well. Trevor Story had his first home run of 2023 in this series. He also had a stolen base and 2 walks in this series. He's still obviously struggling to really find himself at the plate, but there were a lot of positive signs against the Dodgers this weekend, right? He was hitting the ball really hard. He was making a ton of hard contact. Even his outs felt like really hard contact for the most part. He was taking some walks, which is great. He wasn't swinging so much at that outside slider, which was awesome. And it looks like Trevor Story slowly starting to put it together at the plate, which would be a huge boost to the Boston Red Sox as they move into the last month of the year. Alex Verdugo had not one but two leadoff home runs in this series in back-to-back games. That made him the only Red Sox player ever, which is kind of surprising actually, to have three leadoff home runs in back-to-back-to-back games, which is really cool for Alex Verdugo. And man, I love when Alex Verdugo gets on a little bit of a power stroke. I think Alex Verdugo's at his best actually when he's not hitting home runs and when he's driving the ball to the opposite field, sort of gap-to-gap type power. I think he's more productive that way. But man, he is one of the prettiest power strokes in all of baseball. When he gets a hold of one, you immediately know that ball's getting out of here, and he knows it, and it's just a ton of fun to watch. So during these little power stretches that Alex Verdugo goes on from time to time, it's really, really cool to see and really, really cool to watch, and he is in the midst of one right now, and it was a ton of fun to watch. So yeah, I actually think there were quite a few sort of positive takeaways offensively from this Dodgers series, right? Adam Duvall sort of getting back to that type of play he was doing at the beginning of the year is really, really important to the Boston Red Sox. Justin Turner continuing to do what he does on a day-to-day basis is very important, and you were seeing contributions from a lot of the heart of the order, right? Alex Verdugo, Trevor Story, Tristan Casas are all guys who are kind of pillars of this Red Sox offense, and it's really great to see them contributing not only to Red Sox wins, but to Red Sox losses as well, to see this offense still kind of playing in gear, right? There was never really a game in this series where it felt like the offense was off kilter a little bit. It just didn't happen at the right time in two of these games. So that's the positive takeaways offensively for the Red Sox in this series, but there were some negative ones as well, such as going 6 for 24 in this series with runners in scoring position. That's a .250 batting average, which in the grand scheme of things isn't terrible, but it's also not great either. There were a bunch of missed opportunities. I think the difference between what we saw in the Houston Astros series, specifically the last two games, and what we saw in this series was that the bottom part of this Red Sox order was not being as productive as we've seen throughout the year. Pablo Reyes is in the midst of a mini slump right now. I believe he's 0 for 12. Luis Urias didn't do a whole lot in this series. Moss is still off a little bit, right? Connor Wong didn't do a whole lot. It felt like that 7, 8, 9 part of the batting order didn't do a whole lot in this series. I think that's why you saw a lot of missed opportunities. The other big missed opportunity offensively in this series came in the first game with a base running blunder by Connor Wong. It was bases loaded, momentum was going the Red Sox way, and this dude sort of overruns second base, gets tossed out in the middle of the base pass, and the rally is ended with Rafael Devers coming to the plate with the bases loaded and the ability to tie this game up. I think that was the other big missed opportunity for the Boston Red Sox in this series, and the word missed opportunities feels like it's kind of the slogan of the 2023 Red Sox, especially offensively, right? It feels like they get themselves into opportunities where, okay, great, they can actually do something here, and then something happens like Connor Wong overrunning second base. I don't know if it was his fault. I don't know if it was Fabulous' fault. I don't know if it was Casas' fault, but either way, that happened, and all of a sudden, that opportunity feels like another missed one on a big old pile of missed opportunities offensively for the Red Sox in 2023. So like I said, good and bad. As for the pitching in this series, Cutter Crawford opened this series up, and he looked pretty good on the mound in this one. He ended up going 5 innings, allowing 2 earned runs on 4 hits while striking out 7. Like I've said before when we're talking about Cutter Crawford, Cutter's really emerged as a guy that I could really see sticking in the Red Sox rotation as we move forward past the 2023 season. Going into 2024, 2025, and beyond, Cutter has really sort of emerged him as a legit candidate to be that 4 or 5 starter for the Boston Red Sox because he's looked really good on the mound in recent starts. Game 2, we got James Paxton, and Paxton really struggled in this one. He only managed to get through 4 1/3 innings, allowing 4 earned runs on 4 hits and walking a ridiculous 5 batters while striking out only 4. A game of 4s for James Paxton in not a very good way. I really think that the Red Sox should genuinely consider starting to give James Paxton a couple more days rest. Maybe they throw in a opener every week or something like that just to give Paxton a couple of days because he's pretty vital to this Red Sox rotation in terms of what they will be able to do in September, and having him kind of go out there and continue to give you starts like this and very clearly just be sort of out of gas at this point is just something you can't afford as a Red Sox team. So maybe that's something they start to consider, but overall, James Paxton recently has not been very good. To finish out this series, we got Tanner Houck's second start since coming off the IL, and this was a really great start for Tanner. He ended up going 4 4 innings, striking out 4 batters, and allowing only 1 run on 5 hits. This is the kind of start the Red Sox need from Houck down the stretch here, and it was really, really great to see this kind of start from Tanner Houck, just 2 starts back from the IL, right? He looked fully locked in here. It brought his season ERA down below 5, and this was a very dangerous Dodgers lineup that he was able to pretty much take care of for the most part through the course of 4 innings. Now, the reason he didn't go more than 4 innings was because he is on a pitch limit, which makes sense, right? He hasn't pitched in a while, but either way, a really great outing for Tanner Houck. The bullpen in this series, not very great, right? There were some good performances, not gonna lie to you. Josh Winkowski had a good one, Garrett Whitlock had a good one, but there were some really bad ones as well. Nick Pivetta had a really bad outing, and Chris Murphy had a really bad outing that connected for 4 innings of work and 6 earned runs in total. And I think what we're seeing with the bullpen, especially with these bulk guys at this point in the season, is a little bit of fatigue, right? The Red Sox have been using this bullpen to the tune of the 4th most innings in all of Major League Baseball. And this is kind of what happens when you sort of overuse your bullpen. It's not the fault of Alex Cora, while Alex Cora hasn't made every right bullpen decision this year. It's more so the fault of the fact that you had some major injuries and you didn't bring in another starting pitcher, or you didn't find a solution to the rotation, and you're starting to see these bulk guys like Pivetta, like Murphy, right? Like these sort of middle inning guys wear out a little bit. So to me, it's going to be really interesting how the Red Sox bullpen is going to be managed throughout the month of September, and how they work around the fact that some of these guys like Josh Winkowski, like Nick Pivetta, like Chris Murphy are up towards the top of the league in bullpen innings pitched. It'll be super interesting to see how the Red Sox manage around that. Overall, I think when it comes to the actual impact on the 2023 season, when I talked about the Red Sox path to the playoffs, I actually said when they face the Los Angeles Dodgers, just don't get swept, right? As long as you don't get swept, you can keep yourself in this race. That's exactly what they were able to do. They didn't get swept, and they did keep themselves in this race. The problem with that prediction is that they had to have won the series against the Washington Nationals to stay on the 90-win pace, so now you're a little bit behind, which means losing a series to the Dodgers, while not detrimental to the season, certainly doesn't make things any easier. Didn't sink a ship, but it certainly did not help patch up any of the holes that are on this current ship, right? Now it feels like the Red Sox really need to win this series at the bare minimum against the Houston Astros to stay competitive and have truly competitive games in September. And I think, again, when you're looking at this series as a whole, the bullpen, it felt like a lot of missed opportunities in the bullpen with guys coming out and just simply not performing and really kind of giving up these close games in terms of the lineup and the base running blunders and the errors defensively. It feels like the Red Sox are really good at bringing themselves into these opportunistic times where you have these sort of stretches where you're like, okay, all they need to do is do this, right? Don't get swept by the Dodgers and then beat the Houston Astros at home, and you'll be right back in this thing. And then they end up shooting themselves in the foot a little bit, like I mentioned in the intro, right? And that's exactly what this series felt like. The Red Sox did have a legitimate chance to make a legit statement in this series that, hey, we can legitimately compete against some of the best, if not the best team in Major League Baseball, and they just simply could not do that. So while it was a frustrating series for sure, it didn't sink the ship. And I actually thought this series over this weekend was, one, a lot of fun to watch. Mookie coming home. The games themselves were pretty much competitive for the most part, and it didn't have me pulling out any hairs. So the good news and the silver lining with this series is that the Red Sox did play pretty well against the Los Angeles Dodgers, which is a really great sign going forward. The question is now, can they take advantage of the opportunities laid out in front of them with the Houston Astros scuffling a little bit, or are they going to shoot themselves in the foot again like we saw in Game 1 of this series? But that's just my opinion, so let me know in the comment section down below. What did you think of this series? What did you think of the Red Sox defense, offense, pitching? What do you think about my theory of just these flat out missed opportunities? What did you think of this latest Red Sox series? Let me know in the comment section down below. As always, if you made it to the end of this video, do me a favor. Make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're new here, we talk Red Sox content almost every single day. Also, make sure you guys have hit the like button on this video as well. Helps these videos out a ton, and it would mean a lot to me. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one, and I will see you in the red seats.